Okay, students, am I audible to you all? Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me? Right. Okay, let's start the session. So let's start today's first session. Okay, fine. So students, don't disturb. Okay, TRG session. If I take, I'll explain what is TRG, what is the motivation of doing this TRG session. So once we done with the theory areas with the kids, I think Sri Lanka, Zian might take audit. Okay, so I hope the entire theory portions are covered, right? So now it's a quick revision. It's give a guidelines. It's exam oriented session because what you studied and how you're going to apply that to exams, right? So that's what we're going to discuss here. That's what we're going to discuss here. And basically, if you attend this TRG session, you will get a clear picture how your exam paper look like. Thereafter, it's up to you to practice more. It's up to you to practice, right? So first of all, I'll explain basically the portions that we covered in your audit paper. The first thing is audit paper is not a theory paper. Keep that in your mind. It's an application paper where you need to familiarize yourself with all the cases. You need to familiarize yourself all the cases because mostly it's a case study oriented paper. It's a case study oriented paper. So I'm expecting you all to familiarize with the case studies. Once you familiarize with the case studies, it's very easy. And if I take your entire syllabus, audit and assurance, right? It's include the planning stage. Whatever the materials that you are using, nothing matter, no problem, right? You can use Kaplan, you can use BPP, or Study Hub, but it covers all these three areas. I could prefer if you go with Kaplan order or BPP order, that is more correct because when it comes to those chapters, the chapters are arranged in these three stages. One is planning stage, second one is performing stage, and the third stage is reporting stage. So it speaks about external audit. Apart from that, you might study internal audit. So if I take your complete planning stage, you might study a topic called assurance engagement. You might study a topic called assurance engagement. Not much important, like very theoretical, very theoretical. And again, you might study rules and regulation, Companies Act. That is also a theory area. You might study something called internal audit. I'll put internal audit under planning, but it's wrong, huh? Right? The correct thing is planning, performing, and reporting stage comes under external audit, right? Plus internal audit. But anyway, for your reference, I put this here, internal audit, but it should not come under planning stage, right? And thereafter, you might study something called corporate governance. This is a bit important. I could say application, right? I could say application because what you studied under corporate governance is a bit important because whatever the things or principles that you studied, you need to apply that to case studies. So case study wise, yes, that topic is very, very important. And after that, you might study something called ethics and acceptance. After that, you might study something called ethics and acceptance. Here, students, you might study the standard called ISA 210. That ISA 210 speaks about acceptance. Before accepting a new client, what you should do. And also ISA 210 that speaks about engagement letter. So one standard ISA 210, you might study the ethics and acceptance. Another important area, definitely in section 1. You might get question from this area. After ethics and acceptance, another important topic that is risk assessment. So risk assessment, if I take, you might study the ISA 300, you might study the ISA 330, that risk response, and also you might study the ISA 320, that is materiality. So this is about materiality, and ISA 330 risk response, ISA 330 risk response, and the same time ISA 300, that is about planning risk assessment. Let's okay, fine, sorry. And students, risk assessment, again, another application. I can say like the risk assessment, if I take 20 to 30 marks confirm. Students, please. Make sure your microphones are muted. Okay. Right. So here, students, if I take risk assessment, one of the important area, because that carries 20 to 30 marks. And thereafter, you might study audit planning. You might study audit planning. Another theory topic. I could say it's important. Even though it is theory, it is important because you might study something called ISA 315, right? That is planning, like audit strategy document and audit program. And you might study the ISA 240, that is fraud responsibility. ISA 250, you might study, that is about compliance. Again, you might study something called ISA 330, that is interim audit and final audit. And also you might study something called ISA 230, that is about documentation, audit documentation. So all these standards that you might cover under audit planning, So these things comes under planning stage. So students, if I take these two, we're going to cover in our TRG. Reason, both are 100% confirmed, it's going to be tested. It does not mean that other areas will not be tested. Other areas also you should know, especially the standards, corporate governance and the standard. Okay. This is the planning stage of your audit. If you take performance stage, you might study something called audit evidence. Under that, you might study some standards, ISA 500 evidence. And you might study ISA 602 or 620. That is relying the work of expert. That you might study. I know when I discuss these things, you might ask a question. Ijaz Ismat, sir, risk response and interim audit are same standard. Yes, same. Actually, the risk response is a part of interim audit only. At the interim audit, what procedures we do? Risk assessment. So risk assessment comes under interim audit. So basically it's the same standard. Right. One portion covers risk assessment, another portion covers the interim audit. And also you might study here ISA. Another question that I can expect from you all, right? When I mark these standards, commonly students ask, sir, do we need to by heart all these standards? No need to by heart the standard, but I'm expecting you all that you should have a clear idea about these standards. What is the responsibility of auditor over fraud? That idea should be important. But if you want to go for a rank, those who are expecting rank, right? Or Sri Lanka, we can say prize winners, potential prize winners. Yes, better if you can remember the standards. And here we discuss something called ISA 530 sample, right? And I just recalling your memory, whether you can able to remember these things. And also ISA 402, that is service organization type 1 and type 2 reports, right? And also ISA 602, internal audit, relying the work of internal auditor. Then you might study the concept called direct assistance, internal audit direct assistance. All these things comes under audit evidence. Students. Not only that, you might study again internal controls. You might study something called internal controls, right? That is COSO model. You might study something called internal audit or internal controls, COSO model. And you might study test of control. Another important application area. Under test of control, sales system was there, purchase system was there, right? Purchase system. and payroll system, and cash and bank system, and PPE, inventory. You should have clear idea about these areas. You should have clear idea about these areas. And then substantive procedures. Substantive procedures. Another important area. 20 to 25 marks covers here, right? Under substantive procedures, you might study the test of detail. You might study test of detail, and you might study the substantive analytical procedures. Substantive analytical procedures. If I take reporting stage, that we can, I think you guys might study completion part. Under completion, you might study ISA 560, that is subsequent event. And ISA 570, that is going concern. And ISA 505, that is circularization or else confirmation. And ISA 450, that is about misstatements, review. And I can say ISA 580, that is written representation. All these things you might study under what? Completion stage. Then you might study reporting, audit reporting. That is a format of audit report, ISA 700, format of report. And ISA 701, that is key audit meta paragraph. Then ISA 706, that is emphasizes of meta paragraph. Right? And you might study the opinion, different type of opinion modifications. That can be qualified, it can be adverse, or it can be disclaimer. So all these other things comes under the reporting stage. So quickly I covered the entire syllabus. Right? So if you want to check how much of content that you studied, or if you want to remember what are the things there in your audit paper, I can simply say these are the areas. One slide I put entire syllabus. Right? I make this. So in this one slide, I included your entire audit syllabus. Fine. So, okay. So why I am telling this, just to recap your entire syllabus, because first of all, you should have a clear idea what is there in the audit syllabus. That understanding is very much important. If you have that understanding, it is very easy. It is very easy to get the idea, right? So here see planning stage and performance stage and reporting stage. I can say your entire syllabus is covered. Okay. One minute. Trying to take this. Okay, let's make it like this. 1 minute. I'll take this planning stage out. This is your syllabus. Huh? Right. This is your syllabus. Performing stage and reporting stage. Planning stage, I'll put it separate. I'll take planning stage separate. Right. So this is your planning stage. In terms of Kaplan, I can put you chapter number 1, chapter number 2, chapter number 3. Corporate governance is your chapter number 4. Ethics and acceptance is your chapter number 5. Risk planning is your chapter number 6. Risk assessment is your chapter number 7. First 7 chapters covers under planning stage. Then it goes to reporting, performing stage and reporting stage. This is chapter number 8. This is chapter number 9. Substantive procedures, test of control and internal control together it is included. Chapter number 10. Completion is chapter number 11. Reporting is chapter number 12. That's all. So actually there are 12 chapters. I can arrange the 12 chapters in this way: planning stage, performance stage, and reporting stage. Why I want to put the entire syllabus into this format? Why I want to put the entire syllabus into this format? To make sure that you covered entire syllabus first, because some students don't know what is the relationship between these chapters. The chapters are logically connected. When we are doing a planning stage, certain things that covered in the performance stage and the reporting stage, there is a timeline for each and every element. I forgot to mention one thing here. When I'm talking about risk assessment, I forgot to mention ISA 520. That is, we call ARP, Analytical Review Procedures. This is also important because when you are doing audit risk questions, some questions included ARP as well. Fine. So this is the planning stage of the syllabus. This is your performing stage and reporting stage of the syllabus. I hope you won't just take a screenshot. Fine. Those who wants to get a prize, you should know the logical connection and the standard guidelines. Right. Now let's look at what is the connection between these three and your final paper. Mostly if I take your final exam paper, students, there are two sections, section A and section B. Section A, there are certain questions possible. There are certain types of questions, certain type of combinations possible. Right? I assume that you all covered entire syllabus, right? Is there any students from India? Is there anyone who joined from India? Any Indian students? Okay, fine. Right, fine. Okay. So here, students, if I take this section A, I'll tell you like the combinations of possible combination to section A. Section A includes objective test question, ethics and acceptance can be combined together. Ethics and acceptance can be combined together. Especially, code of ethics can be tested in your MCQ. Ethical threats can be tested in your MCQ, right? And conflict of interest can be tested. Conflict of interest can be tested in section, right? And ethical risk can be tested, ethical risk, or else I can say ethical issues. You should know these terminologies. Today, we're going to familiarize ourselves with these areas only. And especially, you should know ISA 210. ISA 210. These are the things can be tested together. So what I'm trying to tell you is, section A ethics question possible. Section A ethics question possible. But you should know that ethics question can be tested in these areas, right? Second one, section A is planning and risk assessment. Planning and risk assessment. This combination is possible. Planning and risk assessment means simply audit risk, materiality, ARP, strategy, plan, interim audit, and documentation, right? And ISA 240, 250. Anything can be possible. They can combine these together. In section. That is also I'm expecting. That can be possible. That type of questions also possible in section A. Right? Third combination, how to combine section A case studies. There are 3 case studies possible. I'm trying to tell you how examiner can cook a case study. Case study, how examiner can create a case study. That case study body, the case line body includes certain problems, right? So I'm discussing those problems only. It can be an ethics and acceptance related matter. It can be planning and risk assessment related matter, right? Okay. And sir, will you able to share this with us? I'm just typing, right? So it won't be a proper format. Is it fine for you all? Because I do not want to share. I'm just thinking and just typing things. Is it fine? If it is fine, I can share. No problem. Okay. So just I want to recall your memories because I'm not teaching. I'm just recall your memories. So if it is okay, I can share. No problem. Right. And the third combination of case study is possible. See, the third case study, right? I'm talking examiner's perspective, how examiner can think and create cases. Third case study is possible. That is little tricky. That case study only most difficult case studies. Always for Indian students, always I'm telling, right? Evidence is the difficult part. When it comes to section A, evidence is very difficult. Right? This case study, if you get this type of case study, you should focus more. That is audit evidence and procedures. Audit evidence and procedures. Right? Audit evidence also, along with that, procedures. Procedures mean, students, that is like test of control is also procedures. Substantive procedures also procedures. Right? So here, as I told you, ISA 500 evidence can be tested. ISA 500 evidence can be tested. ISA 620 can be tested. ISA 530 can be tested. ISA 402 can be tested. Any standards in the evidence plus test of control. The case study might include test of controls. And the case study might include ISA 505 as well, 580 as well. Even though that is not included in the planning stage, sometimes they might test written representation. ISA 580 means written representation. ISA 505 means confirmation. So positive, negative, circularization, confirmation, those things can be tested along with these procedures. And also substantive procedures can be tested. Right. This is the most difficult section A questions. This is the most difficult section A questions. Right? And very easy portion is internal audit and corporate governance. Another combination possible, corporate governance and internal audit. This can be combined. Corporate governance, internal audit can be combined. Right. So corporate governance you might study, and internal audit also you might study. Those two topics can be combined together in the case study. That is also possible. Last section A case study. I'm not telling all these things are definitely tested because only three cases are possible. I'm telling what is the possible combination of those cases. And finally, completion and report. Completion and report means they might test ISA 560. They might test 560 is what? Subsequent event. Active duty, passive duty. Right. The responsibilities of auditor during active duty, responsibilities of auditor during passive duty. That is what ISA 560. ISA 570 is going concern. What is going concern? Auditor's responsibility over going concern, management responsibility over going concern indicators, going concern procedures, right? And ISA 580, that is written representation. ISA 450, overall review and misstatements, projected misstatement, judgmental misstatement, factual misstatements, that can be combined along with paragraphs. Audit report paragraphs. There are different types of paragraphs you might study, right? Paragraphs, I can say like ISA 706, emphasize of meta paragraph, other meta paragraph, going concern meta paragraph, key audit meta paragraph, right? Students focus more on key audit meta paragraph this time. That is ISA 701. Very, very important, right? So paragraphs and opinion, any types of opinion. So these combinations can be possible. So what I'm trying to tell you is your section A is the most difficult area. Always I'm telling in my class, students might think theory areas are easy, right? Student might think section A is MCQ, we can easily pass. No, take the history of audit paper. The global pass rate is always low. What is the reason? The main reason is students are not performing section A. Students are not performing section A. That is the main reason. So here students, if I take section A type of question, the case study, section A case study, these are the combinations possible. So you should know what should study along with what. That is important for section A. Because that combinations are possible to create case studies. That is what I am trying to tell you. I am not telling that this area will be tested, this area will not be tested. It is not like that. I am telling you how examiner can cook a story, how examiner can create a story, right? What I explained so far, section A, understood? Yes or no? Still, I didn't start anything related to ethics. I'm just giving an overall idea. I'm making you to prepare for the exams. I'm making you to prepare your exams. I can show you some sample. Students, like 1 minute. I can show you some sample questions, right? Where you can easily familiarize yourself with the case studies, right? So 1 minute. So let's take one question paper. Let's take one sample question paper. See here. Let's take case studies. See ethics. Ethical issues. Right. Ethical issues can be possible. Then second case study, 11 to 15. See here, fraud and error, ISA 240. Planning. Test of controls. Audit risk. So audit risk is always combined with what? Planning stage. Let's take the third case study. The third case study is 16 to 20. Right. ISA 315, risk assessment and internal controls. See here, control objective, internal controls, performing stage. Controls, performing stage, test of control. Receivable ledger, this is substantive procedure. Controls. Here also, test of controls, 20. Let's take the final case study, 21 to 25. Audit risk. Risk of material misstatement, that is also audit risk. Detection risk. Audit response, risk and response. So when we are taking case studies, students, there is a possible combination that we can see. Let's say another question paper. If you take this question paper, see, first one. This is the most difficult question, section A. They gave some procedures, assertion. Right. They gave some assertions. All these are what? Confirmation, circularization, test of controls, audit procedures. What is the first question? Assertion. Assertion comes under audit procedures. Performing stage. Rights and obligation, assertion. Evidence. Impact, assertion. Next one. Assertion, substantive procedure. This is also assertion. So this type of questions only difficult. Now final, see here, going concern, completion. Completion and reporting. This is also going concern, ISA 570. This is also going concern, ISA 570. This is also going concern related to ISA 570. Impact to audit report, ISA 700, impact to audit report, reporting. So what I'm trying to tell you is, students, this combination only possible. This combination only possible in section A. Sorry. When you are preparing for exam, you should know these combinations and you should prepare yourself along with these combinations. That is very much important. You got my point? Sir, is this paper in the exam kit, or can you share the sample paper as well? I didn't get. I didn't understand your question. Sir, is this paper in the exam kit, or can you share? What paper? You mean the paper which I shared here? This one. Your sample papers. All those papers, okay. I'll share that in your group. I'll share that in your group. TRG group, I'll share only. And also I can share in the main audit group also. So I hope you all understood about section. I hope you all understood about section. Right? Fine. Now let's move to section B. Now let's move to section B. Now let's move to section B. Section B, students. So share those in Arivu group also. Indian students. Okay, fine. Aravind, I think I shared those mock papers with you all, right? Already. It's shared, right? We did those papers, right? Whatever the papers, Jay, okay, Jay, or whatever the papers I opened here, all the papers we completed, right? So what you can do is, you can go to Arivu's app and you can see the recordings. Complete all those papers are discussed in the class itself, right? So all the papers are there, and also all these answers, discussions also there, right? So in Sri Lankan students only, I need to share those papers. So if we get 3 out of 5 on average in Kaplan section A question. No, that's like, it's like this. Section A total marks is 30 marks. If you really focus on price, rank, you need to score more than 20. Right? If you want to pass, you should score in between 15 to 20. That is enough. That is a guideline. If you want to get a rank, more than 20 is fine. Even if you score 21, yes, obviously Sri Lanka, you can get a rank. India, little difficult, but possible. I am expecting more than 20 only out of section A. If you are scoring between 15 to 20, you are on track. You can pass, don't worry. Okay. But getting that marks is not easy. Huh? Getting that marks section A is not easy. Fine. Now, students, let's move to section B. Now, let's move to section B. Now, let's move to section B. In section B, students, I am going to discuss about question 1. How examiner can create question 1. All these are based on the past paper analysis only, right? Subject to change. 90% I can give assurance, not 100%. Okay. Well, I'm not the examiner, but by looking at last 20 years past paper, I observed the pattern. That is what I'm sharing with you all. Right? Question 1, possibility, internal control and test of control. Internal control and test of control. This is possible, section B, question number 1. This is one possibility. Maximum marks 15 marks. Maximum marks 15 marks. Under this, what type of questions they might test? One is deficiency and recommendation. Deficiency and recommendation. 2 is test of control. Some past papers examiner might ask all 3 together: deficiency, recommendation, test of control. Control objectives can be tested. And also control strength can be tested. Control strength can be tested. All these are the areas can be tested for this 15 marks I am telling. Then, you know, section B, question number 1, total marks is 30 marks. Total how many marks? It is 30 marks. 15 marks for this area. Therefore, it's your duty to practice more questions related to controls. That is most easiest area, because you can use your general knowledge to pass. Audit paper, why people fail? Because you can't use your general knowledge, most of the questions. If you take audit risk and all, you can't use your general knowledge. You can't just think, and common sense you can't use. But when we are taking internal control, test of control, you can use your common sense. That advantage we have. So therefore, don't lose marks. That 15 marks is very, very important. Then examiner might ask substantive procedures. I hope you all covered substantive procedures. For Indian students, I'll do some extra classes, right? I'll discuss with management and I will discuss, right? For substantive procedures, I need to do more questions. Already we did, but anyway, we need to do more questions. Because substantive procedures are not easy for those who are not working. Substantive procedures can be tested, general procedures. General substantive procedures. What is general substantive procedures? Examiner might ask substantive procedures for sales, substantive procedures for purchases. Like that, general procedures can be asked. Specific assertion, substantive procedure. Specific assertion, substantive procedures. What is specific assertion, substantive procedures? That is like, that I can discuss in detail under substantive procedures, right? That is like rights and obligation of receivable, write down procedures. Completion of revenue, write down procedures. For specific assertion, they ask you to write down the procedures, right? Another procedure they might ask audit procedures. The terms are very important. Substantive procedures means assertion at financial statement level. But sometimes they ask audit procedures. Audit procedures means it include what? Substantive procedure plus test of control. You can write test of control also within audit procedures. Sometime we discussed, Indian students, we discussed this in the class, standard problems. Sometime standard problems will be given. Standard problems. And you should resolve that standard issues under substantive procedures. You should provide what? Solution for standard issues. Let's say there is an NRV, net realizable value issue given in the scenario. They ask you to write procedures for that. Provision related issue discussed in the scenario. They ask you to write procedures for that. Intangible asset related issues are discussed. They ask you to provide solution for that. These are the questions possible for this. Substantive procedure students. This time I am expecting 10 marks in question 1. So 15 marks for controls, 10 marks for substantive procedures, balance 5. Standards. Some students might think this as theory, but I say it is standard. There are certain standards can be tested for the balance portions. That can be ISA 210, that is acceptance consideration ethics. ISA 230, that is documentation. ISA 240, that is fraud. ISA 250, that is compliance. Any standard can be possible. ISA 500, evidence. ISA 505, confirmation. ISA 508, written representation. ISA 620, relying the internal work auditors. 330, interim audit. Right. 530, sample. 450, overall misstatement, 560 subsequent event, 570 going concern. Anything can be tested. Anything can be tested. Anything can be tested. Understanding the business entity, 315. Understanding the business entity, 315. All these can be tested. One is standard. Theory areas, I can say, one is standard. Another one is assurance. That you might study, assurance engagement. I think for even Sri Lankan students, I teach this, chapter 1. We discussed. I only covered assurance. Right. After that only I gave it to Zian. Right. And rules and regulations. Right. Internal audit. Anything is possible. Internal audit, anything is possible. Internal audit, anything is possible. So this is for that 5 marks. This is one combination only. This is one combination only. There's a high chance this combination will work. Section B, question 1. High chance this combination will work. Sometime, some students will get section B. Some students will get section B, question 1, because questions get rotated. First one is audit risk. First question you will get what? Audit risk. Under audit risk, concentrate. One is case study only. Identify audit risk and response to audit risk. 2 is case study and ARP, analytical review procedures. Case study and financial statement extract together, both possible. So audit risk can be tested. In this case, audit risk can be tested for 20 marks. Audit risk can be tested for 20 marks. So balance 10 marks. Again, substantive procedures. 10 marks for substantive procedures. These are alternative ways. Alternatives. Question number 1, both possible. Some students will get test of control. Some students will get audit risk. This is the combination. This is the combination. Is it clear, students? Question number 2, I'll discuss. Question number 2, I'll discuss. Question number 1, understood? Is it clear? So this is how your paper looks like. This is how your paper looks like. Audit paper is very easy to predict because the questions are predetermined. Then why students fail? Case studies are difficult. Case studies are difficult. Next one, take a screenshot if you want. After that, I can share. Right. Now, let's move to question number 2. How question 2 can be tested? How question 2 can be tested? What is the possibility? Let's see that first. Let's see that first. How section B, question number 2 can be tested. Right? So, section B, question 2. Audit risk. If first question is test of control, second question is audit risk only. Right? So there are 2 types of audit risk question that I hope you practice this in the class. One is identify audit risk and response to audit risk. Identify audit risk and response to audit risk. 2 is perform ARP, analytical review procedure, and identify audit risk and response to audit risk. There are 2 types of audit risk question possible. One is what? Identify audit risk and response to audit risk. That is one type. Another type is perform ARP, identify audit risk and response to audit risk. Right. I can show you sample questions. Let's take it here. See here, in this case study, they just gave the case line. They didn't give anything else. Only case study is given. What is the question? The question is Identify audit risk and response to audit risk. Right, I gave answer within the question itself. Right, see here, identify audit risk and response to audit risk. Only case study is given. This is one type. Another type is audit risk with ARP. What is audit risk with ARP? They will give a case study. They will give a case study like here, and they will give you a case study plus what they will give is they will give a financial statement extract. See here, they gave a financial statement. Earlier question only case study, but here case study plus financial statement extract. And from this you need to identify what? Audit risk. So question number 1 is what? ARP, analytical review procedure. They ask us to calculate what? Ratios. So we need to compute ratios. Then the second question is, see here, information given in the case study plus ratios calculated. ARP and the case study, we need to identify what? Audit risk and response to audit risk. We need to identify audit risk, and these are the two types of questions. All of your past papers, if you prepared for these two questions, one is identify risk and respond to risk, perform ARP, identify risk and respond to risk. If you prepared for these type of question, you can do all the past paper questions. These are the two models possible in section B, question number 2 for audit risk. Right? How many marks? 20 marks. And also along with this, ISA 320 can be tested. What is ISA 320? Materiality, performance, materiality. Materiality and performance. This can be possible. This is 120 marks question. Question B. Suppose in your section A, section B, question number 1, if you audit risk is tested, this one, audit risk is tested. Suppose if the audit risk is tested in your section B, question 1, then how your question number 2 look like? Again, internal control and test of control. How many marks? 15 marks. Then balance 5, procedures. Substantive procedures for 5 marks. This is what happened. So section B, question number 2, possible combination is these two only. Either audit risk or test of control 15 marks and procedures 5 marks. Is this clear? Question number 2. Is this clear? This is the combination possible in question number 2, section B. Okay. Now let's move to question number 3. How your question number 3 look like? Section B. How your question number 3 look like? Section B, option 1, question number 3. 1 is completion. Under completion, what they can test? ISA 560. 560 means subsequent event. Subsequent events can be tested. IAS 10 can be tested. Events after reporting period. Events after reporting period. Adjusting event, non-adjusting event, right? And ISA 570 can be tested. Going concern. Along with that, right? Along with that, this is for 10 marks maximum. This is for 10 marks maximum, right? Then the second one is paragraphs. Paragraphs can be tested for maximum 4 marks. What type of paragraph you might study? One is emphasizes of meta paragraph, key audit meta paragraph, other meta paragraph, other information. This is important. Other information. What is other information? ISA 710, other information. And going concern meta paragraph. Going concern meta paragraph. These are the paragraphs. Any of these paragraphs can be tested. Any of these paragraphs can be tested. After that, students, this is almost confirmed, this question. Maximum for 6 marks or 5 marks. That is impact to audit report. Impact to audit report. This is for 5 marks. Impact to audit report. Right? Impact to audit report means a misstatement given how it's affect audit report. How it's affect audit. A misstatement will be given. How it's going to be affected audit report, right? How it's going to be affected audit report. This is possible. Definitely this will be tested. Definitely this will be tested. Okay. Students, am I audible to you all? Heavy rain at my place as usual, right? So if there is any inconvenience, let me know. So that is section B, question number 3. This combination is possible. This combination is possible. This is 5 to 6 marks. 5 to 6 marks, right? This is one possibility. Another possibility is again section B, right? Question number 3. Instead of completion, what they will ask is any theory areas can be tested. Any theory areas can be tested. Right. Lagging. Okay. Yeah, it's raining here. So if it's too difficult, let me know. Okay. Any theory areas can be tested. Any theory areas. Right. Especially, I'm expecting corporate governance weaknesses. Corporate governance weaknesses. That is possible. For how many marks? Maybe 15 marks or 14 marks or 15 marks. Plus, the next one is impact to audit report. Impact to audit report for 5 marks. This is also a combination possible. But impact to audit report is confirmed. Always it is tested. Right. Section B. Question number 3. Another combination here is simply IAS 10 events, adjusting events and non-adjusting events. Overall review, any standards and concentrate. This is important. I don't know how many of you all discuss this. Critical evaluation of audit report. Critical evaluation of audit report. What is critical evaluation? Here it is not impact. Impact is generally tested, but rarely, some I think for last 10 years past paper, only 1 or 2 times this question is tested. Critical evaluate audit report. What is critical evaluate audit report? Sample report provided. Sample report provided. Evaluate that report. You need to evaluate that report, whether that report is right or wrong. You need to identify the mistakes and you should critically evaluate. Okay, so these are the possibilities of section B, question number 3. These are the possibilities of section B, question number 3. So if you look at all 3 questions, section A, section B, question 1 or 2 or 3, you can observe a pattern. And if you prepared for that pattern, it is very comfortable because already you know how to approach. That is one way to save your time. Is it clear, students? Everyone understood up to now? Overall, your syllabus is discussed, right? And I gave you a pattern, how examiner can merge topics. Right. So this will give you a clear idea how to spend time. So when we are talking about time management for this audit paper, there are 12 chapters. If you spend all 12 chapters equal time, today chapter 1, tomorrow chapter 2, it won't work. When you know these combinations, you can effectively combine and study. Planning and risk assessment study together. It is very important. Right. If it is my material, chapter number 6 and chapter number 7. Right. Combine and study. Right. So that combination is important. Test of control, substantive procedures, study together. Right. Because most of the past paper questions are combined together. So spend more time with those areas. That is important because otherwise it's very difficult to pass. So try to spend time with what? Questions. Okay. Now let's look at ethics. Right. Our TRG, there are 5 days. There are 5 days and 5 topics. All 5 topics are practical topics. Day 1 is ethics. Day 2 is risk. Risk, I'll take more time. Risk, I'll take more time. Controls. Day 3. Procedures, day 4. Reporting, day 4. If you're really good in these 5 topics, easily you can pass. Easily you can pass. Now let's move to ethics. Now let's move to ethics. Actually, the topic is ethics and acceptance. Okay. Ethics and acceptance. If I take this ethics, how this topic can be tested in your exam. Right. It can be tested in 3 ways. 4 ways actually. One is theory. Theory questions. I'm not expecting this. Because recent past papers, examiner do not want to test theory questions. The second question is section A. Section A means objective test questions, OTQs. Please practice more. There is a high chance you will get OTQs on. High chance. That's why I didn't put ethical issues under section B. Realities test. Section A only. And third question, ethical threats and safeguards. Ethical threats and safeguards. They will give you a scenario. From the scenario, they ask you to identify ethical threats and provide safeguard. This is a table form. One side threat and the other side safeguards. Next question is ethical risk or ethical issues. Some students not familiarized with these verbs, right? So I'll explain the meaning of that verb in a while. And the safeguards. And safeguards. Because most of the students, when they practice threats and safeguard, ethical risk and safeguard, they think both are same. No, both are not same. Both are different. Both are different. So these are the 4 possible combinations of questions, right? So I'll show you the question verbs from the past papers. Then you can understand. See here. Take this question. Question number 4. 5 ethical risk. What is the verb? Ethical risk. That is a separate story. Ethical risk and issues, separate story. Right? And see here in this question. Question 5 ethical threats. Some questions they use the verb ethical threats and the response. That's why I put ethical threat here. Some questions I put what? Ethical risk. So you should clearly understand these verbs. So some questions, yes, ethical threats. Some questions, ethical risk. We'll discuss this. Okay. So now time is 7:05. Let's take 10 minutes break. I'll start at 7:50. Take a break. Then we'll directly go to the questions. Fine. After end of this session, you will understand all 4 types of questions. How to approach. Right, I'll stop with that. Take a break. Okay, let's start the session. So let's start the session. Here, students, if you take all of your past papers, entire past papers from 2007 to 2023, up to March, exams, we can put entire ethics question into these 4 categories. Before 2015 past papers, if you take, more questions are theoretical questions. What is ethics? What is confidentiality? And which situation confidential information can disclose? What is self-review threat? Code of ethics? All those questions possible. But if you look at after 2015, especially after 2016, 17 and onwards, right? The pattern change, radical change to exam questions, where examiner move towards practical problems and assess students' competencies related to ethics. So section A, just keep as it is. Ethical threats means that particular issue arise from external environment. It's arise from external environment. Assuming like auditor is an ethical person, another party who going to interact with auditor is not ethical. Let's say an example like I'm an auditor. I'm an ethical person, but finance manager from client place, he is not ethical. Then whatever the activities performed by finance manager is threat for me, because he is not an ethical person. He tried to influence me. So that is threat. So when you get ethical threats, it's very important. Examples of threats. What is examples of threats? I think you might studied examples, right? Threats related example. Self-review threat, self-interest threat, those definitions are not work at all. For example, contingent fee. Contingency fee. It is one example. Prohibited. Fee dependency. It is an example. Gift and hospitality. Gift and hospitality is an example. Right. Holding shares. Holding shares. Auditor holding shares at client place. It's an example. So I'll always asking you to practice more past paper questions and make a list of what? This particular example. Make a list of what? This particular example. So what is contingency fee? Simple, self-interest rate. Contingency fee is self-interest rate. What is a safeguard? Prohibited. Likewise, for all the examples, you should prepare a schedule. For all the examples, you should prepare what? A schedule. Right. So I can show you one schedule here. I can show you one schedule here. 1 minute. See, gift and hospitality, fee dependency, ownership. What is a safeguard? All these are self-interest. Commercial relationship, potential employment, overdue fee, contingency fee, long association, personal relationship, movement of engagement team member to client place. Likewise, you need to prepare all these case study examples. You need to prepare all these case study example, right? So when you prepare all these case study examples, it is very comfortable. It is very comfortable to do the question, because if you prepare a case study list like this, I always ask my students to prepare. Right? Now don't ask me to share everything. right? I can share, no problem, but try to understand. This should be come from your side, right? So you should practice more questions. Then easily you can create these case study response safeguards. So once you do this, this is what you should learn. This is what you should spend time to prepare. This particular list is ready. Let's say last 10-year past paper, you prepared all the threats and safeguards. If the list is ready, you are doing open book exam only. Why? Don't study Kaplan study text. Don't study any other material. Just keep that tute with you, the material, the revision tute. That is enough. That is enough. You can easily pass. You can easily pass. It's a very simple thing, right? So actually, I'm not in a position to share this because it's an old one. This is old one. That is not a new one, right? So after this, there are a lot of changes happened to international ethical standard. But in my material, I include everything, right? Here, recent one, the tute, if I take here, see, in these materials, yes, examples are given. In this material, examples are given. For example, see here, a long association with senior person. What is the safeguard? Corporate financial services. What is the safeguard? So this is the latest one. Recruiting services. What is the safeguard? Internal audit. What is the safeguard? IT system audit. What is the safeguard? Tax services. What is the safeguard? Accounting and bookkeeping service. What is the safeguard? Valuation service. What is the safeguard? For listed company, what is the safeguard? Non-listed company, what is the safeguard? Provision of non-assurance services. What is the threat and safeguard? And loans and guarantees. What is the safeguard? So all these details are family relationship. What is the safeguard? Threat. So prepare the list. Prepare the list. Then it is easy to do the question. So how to prepare for ethical area, ethical questions? Prepare the list of case studies. Prepare the list of case studies. It is very comfortable. It is very comfortable to perform, right? After that, it is not a big deal. See here, this is one student who prepared in India, right? All these things he prepared by himself on ethics. The student who got a very good rank, right? That person prepared all this. So when you do this kind of a work, I'm telling how to study on, right? I'm telling you how to study, right? How you're going to utilize your time for next couple of weeks. After that, you can easily see here. What he did was, he took all the past paper questions and he put entire ethical parts together. Complete ethics. For 10 years, ethics is included here. For 10 years, ethical, all the parts he included here. So what he should do is just to prepare for the exams. By looking at this material, he can directly prepare for what? Exams. So what I am telling is, now itself, take all the ethical questions, put a table. One side, let's say contingency fee. What is the threat? And what is the safeguard? 3 columns. That's all. 3 columns. That's all. So that is what you should do. That is what you should do. Right. So this is how you should prepare for threats question. Now let's take one example case study here, which I gave. Section A. See here. You are audit manager of O&M company. One of the partners has asked you to review the arrangements with some of the firm's long-standing audit clients to make sure there is no ethical issues with the services being provided. G company is a listed company, is one of O's largest clients. Last year, the fee, audit and other services was 2.1 million. This year, fee expected to be 2.3 million, which represent 15.5% and 16.1%. When you get this point, what is fee dependency? A significant amount of audit fee are receiving from the client. International Ethical Standard Board gave some guidelines. One is 2 consecutive years, exceeding 15% threshold, based on the recurring service. Based on the recurring service. Here, see, company is listed company. So 15% is the threshold. 1 year 15.5, another year 16.1, which means more than 15% for 2 consecutive years. So fee dependency. Fee dependency is what threat? Self-interest threat. Fee dependency is what threat? Self-interest. For fee dependency, what we should do? The safeguard is we should inform to charge with governance. And we should perform engagement quality control review. That is a safeguard given by International Ethical Standard Board for fee dependency. Right. Second company is O. O company is a large private company, has been audit client of O for many years. R, a partner of O, acted as audit engagement partner for 7 years. Partner work for the client for 7 years. More than 7 years, you can't work. You should get rotate. You should get rotate. But the problem here is it's not a listed company. If it is listed company, you should rotate. If it is a non-listed company, no problem at all, because for non-listed company, external audit is not mandated. Here they gave the company is a private company. Therefore, no point, no problem. Engagement partner can be a partner forever, no issues. Why? Because even though external audit is not required for them. External audit is not required for them. Now concentrate. This year, O has requested provide tax advice to minimize company tax liability. Asking advice is not a problem. It won't create any ethical threats. But if you provide that particular tax work, that will create what? Self-review threat. The directors have suggested the fee could be based on tax saving. That is contingency fee. What is contingency fee? The audit fee is based on a predetermined condition, a predetermined arrangement. For example, audit fee is based on 10% of profit before tax. Predetermined arrangement. Audit fee is based on amount of tax saving. Predetermined arrangement. That is contingency fee arrangement. Audit and non-audit services cannot be performed based on contingency fee arrangement. Based on what? Contingency fee arrangement. Keep that in your mind. Contingency fee is what? Self-interest rate. O company is an external auditor and also provide non-audit services. When you provide non-audit service, it will create self-review threat. The audit team comprises engagement partner, recently appointed manager. A manager is appointed recently, so his competency level is low. Audit senior and number of audit assistants. Because manager only lead the team, partner do not include involved in the day by day with the audit team. So he's like a figurehead. He takes the overall responsibility, but his presence will not be there always. You got my point? Therefore, the manager need to be a strong person. But here the problem is manager is recently appointed. So the competency, the leadership competency is issue here. Immediate leadership. Overall leadership is partner. The previous audit manager left the firm before the completion. The previous audit manager, he resigned from the audit firm. Now the problem is he joined with client as a finance director. You got my point? So the person who handled this audit, now finance director, the same client. The next problem is the finance director and new manager, new audit manager are friends. Still that familiarity risk is there. So all these cases are done. Now let's move to the question. In relation to G, which of the following threats to independence arise as a result of level of fee? Simply see the level of fee here is like fee dependency only. Fee dependency only. Fee dependency will create self-interest threat. That you should understand. Fee dependency will create what? Self-interest threat. And also, fee dependency can influence us also. Let's say if I am getting a significant amount of income from one client, I do not want to break that relationship. I do not want to break that relationship because that single client can able to influence me a lot. So fee dependency, if I take, initially it's a self-interest threat. And also it's an intimidation threat. What is intimidation threat? Two types of pressure. One is actual pressure or perceived pressure. When I am getting a significant income from one client, there is a perception that I do not want to lose him. If I give a bad opinion, sometimes they might not repeat with me. That risk is there. So that is what I'm telling. Fee dependency is a self-interest. Along with that, it will create intimidation. What is first? Self-interest. What is second? Intimidation. Is it clear? So the answer is 1 and 4. Correct answer is D. Is it clear, students? Understood? How fee dependency will create self-interest, subsequently it create intimidation. If you want to learn more about fee dependency, right, I can share this material, right? You can go through with this. Fee dependency, see, self-interest and intimidation threat. For listed companies, fee dependency, what is the condition? 2 consecutive years exceeding 15% total fee. Non-listed company, 5 consecutive years, 30%. So here the question is listed company, therefore this rule will be applied. So we should perform engagement quality control review. Is it clear? Right. Now students, now let's move to the next question. Everyone, I think Sri Lankan students, you are in the TRG group. I will share these materials to TRG group. Fine. Amina, sir, the non-listed client 30% is not there in the Kaplan text, right? It is not there in the Kaplan text, but it is there in the study hub. From now onwards, the applicable study material is study hub only. So you can't simply say like it's not there in the Kaplan, because if examiner asks a question, we have to respond because study material is study hub. So it's there in the study hub. So yeah, it's not there in the Kaplan. 30% rule is not there. Mostly Kaplan speaks about listed companies only. Okay. But it is included in study hub. So we need to update both. So if I take the material include both portions, Kaplan plus study material like study hub and all. Right. Which of the following actions would not be relevant to maintain the objectivity related to the level of fee income? See here, not relevant. Fee dependency, engagement quality control review should be performed. Engagement quality control review should perform. That is pre-issuance review. Another name is what? Pre-issuance review. That is the second one, pre-issuance. Pre-issuance review and engagement quality control review, both are same. That you should perform as a safeguard. And also you should discuss with charge with governance. You should do. Use separate teams, that is not given. International Ethical Standard Board didn't discuss about that. For a fee dependency, what is a safeguard? First, actions mean safeguard. First, charge with governance discuss, then perform engagement quality control review. Number 1 and number 2, A and B speaks about engagement quality control review. That is correct. D is discuss with charge with governance. Correct answer, right? Irrelevant answer is C. Irrelevant answer is C. In relation to R, being audit engagement partner of O, which of the following correctly identify the threats? Partner for more than 7 years. Partner for more than 7 years. Students, a partner who works for more than 7 years, familiarity threat. Yes or no? A partner who works for more than 7 years, what is the threat? Familiarity threat. Are you agreeing with that? Are you comfortable with that? But students, this company is listed company or non-listed company? Second one. Company O. If it is a listed company, partner should remove. If the listed company, partner should remove. And rotation period is different periods. Rotation period is different period. See? Long association. For long association, 1 minute. See here, long association. For long association, if it is a listed company, public interest company, listed company, cannot act more than 7 years. You can't do. That person should remove. If it is an engagement partner, 5 years cooling off period. If it is an engagement quality control reviewer, 3 years cooling off period. Other key audit partners, 2 years cooling off period. But suppose if the company is non-listed company, external audit is not mandatory. External audit is not mandatory for non-listed companies. Can continue. That person can continue more than 7 years. No problem at all. But try to apply more personal controls. What type of safeguards? You might study ISA 220 quality control. Firm level and individual quality controls to be improved to make sure the work is effective. So that's why answer A. Familiarity, but you can continue. Reason, entity is not listed. Entity is not listed. Is this question understood? 38, understood. Therefore, when you are doing ethical questions, students, always concentrate whether it is listed or non-listed. Whether it is listed or non-listed. They can perform additional engagement, quality control review or other reviews. Question number 39, see here. Which of the following statements true related to tax advice? Based on tax serving achieved. Audit tax advice fee. That is contingency fee. No? Contingency fee is prohibited. Correct answer is B. Contingency fee is prohibited. Correct answer is B. In relation to audit fee, select the type of threat which could arise as a result of finance director's relationship with the audit manager and select appropriate safeguard. Right. See here, actually the relationship between audit manager and the finance director, the relationship is friends, familiarity threat. Always I'm telling in my class, right? Relationships are 3 types. By bond relationship, contractual relationship, by conduct relationship. By bond is father, son, mother, daughter. By bond relationship. Familiarity threat is confirmed. By contractual relationship, husband and wife, spouse. That is also familiarity threat. Third one is by conduct relationship. That is we call friendship. That is also familiarity. So familiarity threat relationships are 3 types that we discussed. So that is familiarity threat. What is the safeguard? Remove the manager. There is no safeguards at all. When there is a relationship related threat, remove that person from the firm, not the audit, not the firm, and take someone else. Correct answer is familiarity, and B is different audit manager should be taken. Okay. So likewise, just practice, right? This one is related to audit risk. I'll do it later. Okay. MCQs understood, students? But I discussed now understood. MCQs understood. Yes or no? Now, Lamai. Now concentrate the verbs. I'll introduce the verbs. Right? I'll introduce the verbs. Here the question is ethical threat. So threats means I feel you all comfortable. No problem. For threat, what you should do is you should know the examples. You should know the case study examples. Then it is easy. For example, see here, preparation of financial statement, self-review threat. Audit fee is based on the percentage of profit, contingency fee. So what I'm trying to tell you is all these are what? Threats. So for this, I gave answers, right? Now students, important area will move. That is ethical issues. What is the difference between ethical risk and ethical issues? That I'll tell you. What is the difference between ethical risk and ethical issues? Ethical risk and ethical issues. Ethical risk and ethical issues. See, look at this slide. Look at this slide. Ethical threats. Ethical threats means it includes threats from external enemy. From someone else other than auditor, from the other side. Threats are possible. What type of threat? Examples include self-interest. Example includes self-review. Example includes advocacy. Example includes familiarity. Examples include intimidation. All these are ethical threats. All these are ethical threats. Then what is ethical issues? Lama, ethical issues or risk is broader than ethical threats. I told you, I am an auditor. I am perfect. But the people that I deal with is not perfect. That is what ethical threat. I am a good auditor. I am an ethical person, but finance director is not ethical. That's the meaning of threat. That's why if you took all the case studies, someone else will disturbing you. Your friend, he left and he joined with the client. Now he's a finance director. It's not your mistake. You got my point? Client is asking a contingency fee arrangement. That is not your mistake. Gift and hospitality coming from client. That is not my mistake. So auditor is an ethical person, but the third party is not ethical. That is what threat means. But ethical issues or risk means, try to understand one thing. Auditor, I am also not ethical. Client, third party is also not ethical. Both possible. When we are talking about ethical issues, if you won't take a screenshot of this, when we are talking about ethical issues or risk, that include threat. Finance director, someone that I deals with, that people may not be ethical, threat. Plus, I am not following Companies Act. I am not following ISA. Always I am telling, what is ethics? What is ethics? Ethics can be defined as what is right or wrong. And such decision arrives beyond legality. So when you are a professional, part of your behavior is beyond legality. Part of your behavior is within legality. This black color, this part is within legality. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Beyond legality, right and wrong is decided by yourself. What is right? Public interest. What is wrong? Self-interest. So when you are a professional, why we are teaching ethics to all the professional students? And one day their behavior beyond legality. If you are a doctor, while you are doing surgery, I can't put rules. You should cut this valve first and you should cut this valve second. I can't tell like that. That is your discretion power. At that point, you should think what is right and what is wrong. That is public interest is right, self-interest is wrong. So that decision is ethical decision. Ethical decision comes always beyond legality. It does not mean you can violate rules. Because part of your behavior is within legality. Those who are following rules only take right decision when their behavior moves beyond legality. I am a driver. I should be an ethical driver. When policy is not there, still I should follow road rules. So there are most of the people who violate rules. We can't expect when something is right, they are not doing. Can you expect that people, when their behavior moves beyond legality, they will take public interest decision? So International Ethical Standard Board said, when professionals are not following rules, that is also an ethical risk. Because, I'll tell you the reason, because what is this concept called professional behavior? Following rules. What is mean by professional behavior? Following rules. So when someone follow rules, it is what professional behavior. Professional behavior says any action discredit to your profession, you will not do that. And you follow the rules and regulations. So when someone is not following rules, it is unethical. It's an ethical risk. Non-compliance with code of ethics. Always I am telling one thing. How to assess yourself, whether I am an ethical person or not. There is a guideline. Code of ethics is assessing whether you are an ethical person or not. If someone asks you, okay, whether you are an ethical person or not. Someone asking you whether you are an ethical person or not. Right. Simply you can say, I'm an ethical person. How to prove? Code of ethics. If you follow integrity, objectivity, professional competence, due care, professional behavior, confidentiality. If these 5 principles, if you followed in your life, you are an ethical person. But it is not easy. Following rules is part of it. Therefore, ethical risk is bigger than ethical threat. Ethical threat means you are an ethical person, someone else is not ethical. But ethical risk means you also not ethical, that person is also not ethical. So in your case study, you can get threats. In your case study, you can get non-compliance also because you are not following rules. Students, explanation understood? Is my explanation understood? Difference between ethical issues and ethical threats. Ethical threats case studies always assume auditor is ethical person. Ethical issues, both parties can be unethical. I'll prove you through a question. I'll prove you. See here. Let's take one question here. Let's take one. It is salt and pepper. Salt and pepper. Past paper question only. See here. The firm is seeking to reduce audit costs, therefore decided not to update engagement letter. Updating engagement letter. Every year you should update engagement letter. Who said? ACCA 210 said. ACCA 210 said every year you should update engagement letter. But you are not updating. Whose mistake? Third party mistake. Whose mistake? Third party mistake. No, it is not third party mistake. It is auditor's mistake. Therefore, it is an ethical risk. Non-compliance with standard. Non-compliance with standard. And see here. See here, the last line. See here. Cinnamon, which means new firm, completed by the February. However, this is very busy time for salt and pepper audit firm. Intend to use more junior staff. ACCA 210, again, the standard said, before you accept a new engagement, Cinnamon is the new client. Before accepting a new engagement, you should assess what? Your capacity. You should assess what? The resources. If you don't have resources, don't accept. But they did. They accept engagement, but they don't have resources. Senior officials, senior experienced people, they don't have lack of resources, but they accept. Whose mistake? Firm's mistake. They can't do that. Non-compliance with ACCA 210. It's an ethical risk. That is not client mistake. That is not Cinnamon's mistake. Auditor's mistake. Auditor is not ethical. Auditor is not following rules. What is the rule? ACCA 210. Acceptance consideration. And also here see, additionally, in order to save time and cost, salt and pepper audit firm not contact previous auditor. Not contact previous auditor. See, ACCA 210 standard clearly said, before you accept an engagement, you should perform certain things. One is precondition. 2 is professional clearance. What is professional clearance? The previous auditor resigned or removed legitimately. For that, you should contact outgoing auditor, previous auditor. But here they didn't do that. So professional clearance is not there. It is one factor you should consider before accepting an engagement. Whose mistake is this? Non-compliance with ACCA 210. Whose mistake? Audit firm's mistake. That's what ethical risk. That's why ethical risk. See the wordings. See the wordings. Firm decided not to update engagement letter to existing clients in order to reduce audit cost. This will create significant non-compliance as per ACCA 210 engagement letter. What is the safeguard? Update the engagement letter. Sometimes when you read this, you might think, sir didn't mention threat here. No need to mention because there is no threat here. There is no threat here. I can't say self-interest. I can't say self-review. Nothing, because that is my mistake. That is non-compliance with code of ethics. That is non-compliance with code of ethics. I am wrong. So don't try to include any threat within your answer here. But if it is a free accounts preparation, self-review threat, I included. The request comes from client. Client is wrong. Client is unethical. But here, my mistake, I am wrong. I am not following rules. Students understood. Students understood. Therefore, when we do a question, first thing is you should understand the work. The first thing is you should understand. Don't write answer. I will share this material for Sri Lankan students. Indian students, the same material we did. Don't worry. Right. So Sri Lankan students, I can share this. So don't try to understand what I am telling. Because within 1.5 hours, 2 hours, I am not in a position to teach entire ethics. Ethics I'll teach for almost 16 hours. Right. So I can't cover entire thing, but I'll try to give my best to you all. See here, firm is trying to use more junior staff to perform audit at new Cinnamon, client called Cinnamon. As per ISA 210 acceptance consideration include resources as one factor. You should accept based on the resource availability. Auditor should not accept audit without having sufficient resources. That is also non-compliance. It's an ethical risk. It's an ethical issue. It is not a threat. What we should do, sufficient resources should be in place. You should recruit people. If you accept it, recruit more senior people and do the audit. Or else ask them to extend the deadline. February we can't give. I can give on April only. Do whatever you want. You can't simply use audit junior staff and finish the audit. That will increase your detection risk. That is negligence. That is negligence. Exactly. Aravind, sir, it's not required to add ethical threat under ethical risk. Yes. Don't mention self-review or self-interest or whatever within your answer. When you are talking about ethical issues, don't use the word threat. But when you are taking threat, mention it as a threat. You got my point? Here, did I mention any threats? I didn't mention any threat. Because it's a risk. But here, contingency fee, I mentioned self-interest threat. Because it's a threat. So try to understand these verbs, students. That is very important. Right. And one more thing. Some students always ask, sir, do I need to remember all the standards? I'll give you a very simple idea. When I am talking about the students, remember 2 standards only. One ISA 210, the other one is ISA 220. These 2 standards are tested. All of your compliance related problems comes from 2 standards only. ISA 210 and 220. 210 is acceptance consideration that comes along with ethics. 220 is quality control. Only these 2 standards are tested by exam. You got my point? Aravind, so why we see here, Aravind, I'm telling like this. Ethical issues include threats. If any threats comes, you should mention what threat it is. Ethical issues include non-compliance. When you are explaining non-compliance, don't use the word threat here. Because there is no threat. Non-compliance comes from my side. So in my answer, if you look at something are ethical non-compliances. When there is non-compliance, I am not mentioning threat. Some are threats. For example, see here, accounts preparation, it's a threat. Threat also comes under ethical issue, right? But at that point, I mentioned the threat. That is what I'm telling. Is it clear, Ravi? Students understood? Is it clear? Everyone understood? Now, let's take the session here. How to approach ethical issues? Identify threats. Include non-compliance. Non-compliance, especially ISA 210 and ISA 220. These are the 2 things. Follow these 2, write down the answers. Follow these 2 and write down the answers. Right? If you follow this, only this slide is enough. If you follow this, you can practice all the questions. You can practice all of your questions. Here, see. For this, I gave answers. Right? Now, what we discussed today, understood? Ethics, I covered everything. 100% I covered. Ethics related question, 100% I covered. Right, I didn't discuss in detail questions, but I covered, and I can share the tudes with your materials. So how this 15 marks can be tested in your exam? This slide give the idea. Now I am challenging you all. Take all the past papers. Take Kaplano, BPPO, revision kit, or whatever you have. If you found any question other than this, whatever you ask, I'll give. One is theory question, OTQ, ethical threats, and ethical risk. You can't find any other verbs other than this, because I covered entire things. Now, practice question from ethical threats. Practice question from ethical risk. It's very comfortable to you all. Okay. With that point, I'll stop for the day today, because I'm finishing little early, right? But second session is audit risk. Starts at 6 o'clock, goes up to 9 only. Goes up to 9. Because audit risk is very big area, right? Ethical risk is useful. Ethical threats and ethical questions. Ethics area. Is it useful? Indian students, sometimes you might feel it is not useful most of the time, because whatever things I discussed today, I discussed in the class also. Almost all the things we discussed in the class. But Sri Lankan students, is it useful for you all? Are you feel comfortable with ethics now? Are you comfortable? I'm sharing this PPT, plus I share my material. Yes, I'll share the material. Okay. And also, sir, can you do a section B question? Yeah, I share the material. I'll share material. I make it very simple, Amina. I'll show you. See here, section B, all possible questions I covered here. I'll share this material. See, ethical threats, I type the answer. When you read, you can understand. If not, let me know. Okay. Ethical risk, I gave. For that also, I gave answer. If you are not feeling comfortable with this, let me know. I can do one session. Is it clear? Right. Don't worry. The materials are very simplified materials, so you can understand. So Indian students, don't worry. For risk, what I'm going to do is I'll change the material. I'll change material. I'll put new questions. So that would be useful for you all also. Right. So with that point, I'll stop for the day. Material students, Sri Lankan students, I'll share these materials right after the class. Okay. Sorry. Thank you very much. We'll meet in the next ERG.